So I'm gonna go over in this video how to quit your job even if you're scared, and how I delayed this decision for months. I was freaked out of my mind quitting my job, but I did it, and how it can be the best decision of your life. I'm John Cristani, and I quit my job in 2012. Now, I was super scared. Let me just put it that way. I was super scared when I first quit my job, and I would have put it off indefinitely if something didn't happen. And I'll tell you about what that something was for me, which really forced me to think about my life. Just to give you a little bit about my story, I was paralyzed for months. I had gone into my boss and I justified all the reasons I wanted a raise. And this was June in 2012. And I'd had everything to say to him, but I remember he had responded with saying, "Or what?" And that was the only thing I didn't have a response to. Is, I didn't want to just quit. I was working a job. I believed in this whole ideal of, people get paid what they're worth, and you move up, you do good work and you move up, and, or other companies hire you. And I didn't know my answer to "or what," because I wasn't about to threaten anybody with like, I'm going to resign or something. But since I've quit my job, at my job, I was managing AdWords accounts and I was making $6,000 per month. In 2015, my company hit my first seven-figure year. I made roughly $1 million profit. Okay, just to give you an idea. My first seven-figure year was actually about almost 3 million. We did 2.8 million, and I did about $1 million profit. And last year, 2018, my company did about 5 million, also again about $1 million profit. So just to give you an idea, where I've gone from quitting my job has been huge, and I'm so happy I did it. But the fact that I'm even speaking to you right now, I'm in this position. And just to give you an idea, YouTube isn't my main business. YouTube, I have a lot of subscribers on here. I have people that follow me and all that jazz, but this is not my main business. I just kind of speak to people here because I like telling people my story and helping influence the world. I know a lot of people are looking for information. There's a lot of garbage out there on the internet, but I hope this can give you some real insight into what it takes to quit your job. Now let's zoom back a second to 2012. After my boss had been basically a D-bag to me and said, "Or what?" What I did is I was paralyzed for months. I decided I was going to quit, but I didn't do anything about it. I was too scared. I didn't know what my parents would think. I didn't know what my coworkers would think. I didn't know, how I would make enough money sustainably. I was really worried. I'd wanted to work on my own. I was looking to actually be an entrepreneur. I was just tired of the whole kind of job, corporate life. And I was also really freaked out because I knew when I quit my job and I went to work for myself, there's a good chance that I'd work for myself for a few months, then I'd be right back at a job again. That's what had happened 2 years prior. I graduated college in 2010 and I tried to be an entrepreneur, worked really hard, and 8 months or something like that, 6 or 8 months later, I failed. I couldn't make it, and I had to get a job. And that was a huge blow to my confidence, right? Because in my mind, I was just going to quit my job, be an entrepreneur. So in my mind, I had already tried that path. I'd already failed myself. And now here I was going to quit my job again to work for myself. I think I was 23 at the time. And everybody around me told me, "John, you're making good money. You're making $6,000 a month." Right? Most of my other friends who had graduated college, they weren't making $6,000 a month. Most people I knew weren't making $6,000 a month. Most 23-year-olds don't make $6,000 a month. Everybody around me was telling me I was supposed to be happy in my situation, but I knew, inside of myself, I knew there was so much unmet potential that I felt I wasn't living up to. I wanted to really have a big effect on the world. And by the way, keep in mind, all during this time, I'm taking on freelance clients. I'd been freelancing and I had all these clients paying me $250, $500 a month to manage their advertising accounts, but I could never get enough people paying me to really take over my income. It could have been I just didn't have enough time, or there weren't enough people out there, or I wasn't pitching high enough, or maybe it wasn't that I was valuable enough. I didn't know, but it all freaked me out, right? So it wasn't until August 2012 I went to a Tony Robbins event. And this is not a pitch for Tony Robbins event, but this had a huge effect on my life. So this is just my personal experience. And I went to his event in Schaumburg, Illinois. And by the way, for anybody looking to do anything Tony Robbins, don't watch his YouTube, don't watch his podcast, don't read his books, just go to an event. That's where he shines, okay? If you do anything Tony Robbins, just go to an event. Don't do any of the little stuff. If you can't afford the event, don't do the little stuff. Just wait until you can afford an event. And his events are like $500. So I went to this event, went out there, was staying in like some hostel. I was like, scraped together some dollars, went to it, super pumped. I'd heard a lot about it. There's like 10,000 people in this room, right? There's a ton of people at these things. The energy is off the hook. So it was the second day and Tony was speaking. And what Tony went over was he did this exercise with us called the Dickens process. And we can kind of go over this a little bit right now. But if you want to go through the Dickens process, I suggest, you can YouTube it or something. I'm sure there's videos that go over this a little more in depth. But what the Dickens process is it's a guided meditation where it forces you to really look inside of yourself and make hard decisions. And that's all Tony does. What Tony really helps you do is you do a lot of exercises, but it's all internal stuff. He does a lot of kind of basically guided meditation, and he forces you to look at things in your life and figure out what your goals are, where you're at, where you want to go, what's happened in your past, how that affects your present or your future, all that sort of stuff. It's internal. But what the Dickens process is he says, imagine one thing, one decision that you need to make in your life. But you decide to put it off for a year. When he started this guided meditation off with that, I thought to myself, I said, oh my gosh, I know exactly what decision it is I'm putting off, right? I know exactly what he was talking about. I was like, that's me. And, I said, I decided to quit my job, but I haven't done it. And, again, I was freaked out. I was scared. So he said, put it off for a year. And he says, I want you to think about where you're at a year from now. What are you feeling? Where are you? What's in your life? Are you closer to your goals? Are you further away? What sort of people are you surrounded by? Now, the next thing he does is he asks, okay, let's back up a second and let's go 2 years into the future. He's like, this decision that you need to make. He says, let's say you keep doing nothing about it. He's like, take yourself 2 years in the future. Where are you? How do you feel about life? What's life like? Who are you surrounded by? What are you wearing? Who do you interact with on a daily basis? What is in your life? What new things aren't in your life? What smells are around you? And he asks you to do that. You go 5 years in the future. Delay making that decision for 5 years. 5 years. What are your feelings? How happy are you? What is life like? Where in the world are you? How much closer or further away from your goals are? Okay? Let's go 10 years in the future. You delay quitting your job for 10 whole years. Where are you? What sort of people are you surrounded by? I don't know. For me, I didn't like any of my coworkers. They're just people you're forced to be around. Isn't that funny? Most people don't like their coworkers. Isn't that a funny fact, by the way? Why are you spending most of your life with people you don't even like being around, who you wouldn't actually be friends with in real life? The only reason that you're friends with them or you hang out with them is because you're forced to work with them, right? So imagine spending the next 10 years of your life being with people that you don't actually like, that you wouldn't actually be friends with in real life. And he has you do that 25 years in the future as well. What's your life going to be like? How much closer, further away from your dreams, your goals are you in 25 years if you don't quit your job and you delay that decision for 25 years? crazy. And I went through this exercise. He goes much longer, much deeper in that. And it was painful, baby. It was painful going through that exercise because you really have to imagine delaying that decision. You really have to imagine doing nothing. And if you really go deep in your brain, you have your eyes closed, you're going there. You realize if you delay making that decision, it's a big problem. I realized I was so far away. I'd given up so much of my life. If I'd waited 25 years to really quit my job, it was unbearable. It was unbearable, okay? And the second part of the exercise is he has you imagine how life will be like in 1, 2, 5, 10, 25 years if you do make the decision, and how great life can be. You make this decision, what people you're surrounded by. You're surrounded by self-intentioned entrepreneurs. People are moving in the same direction as you, or whatever that is. The point being, he really creates what is life like if you don't quit, what can life be like if you do quit your job. You got to really think of these possibilities and get out of fear. Now, what happened for me was after I went through this exercise, during this exercise, I actually cried. Okay, I'm not a crying person. I'm Irish, and Northern Italian, so I'm very I don't show emotions, emotions are bad, emotions are vulnerability, and I'm not a vulnerable person because I'm a man, right? So emotions are bad, in my kind of culture growing up. So you're not supposed to cry. But again, I didn't know anybody at this Tony Robbins thing. I wasn't thinking about it because I was deep in the exercise. It spoke to me. And where I was bawling. I was sobbing because I realized, I really had put myself in that place of delaying making the decisions I knew I needed to make for 25 years. And it freaked the hell out of me. What I imagined was life wasn't that bad, right? If I delayed quitting my job, I'm a really good hard worker. I would make more money. I'd hit that 6-figure salary in a few years. It wouldn't take me long to be hitting 6 figures. I'd end up marrying somebody at my work, like office buildings around where I worked. And I would have married some cute girl or whatever. And, we would wait a few years to have kids because we wanted to feel financially sound. And then we'd eventually have kids, but we need to get a mortgage. But the mortgage would put me under financial pressure to make more money because even though I was making good money, we wanted to keep up with the Joneses, and that would kind of freak, me out because, we need to make more money. But again, we met through, we're both workers. So she would support me working, and there'd be a little distance in a relationship, and I'd work harder, and she'd play more with the kids, and she'd take time off, and we'd have a mortgage, and I'd have to, work harder to make the mortgage payment and whatever. And all this stuff happens, and I never would have actually accomplished any of my dreams, which were to see the world. I wanted to see Thailand. I wanted to see Morocco. I want to see Brazil. I love extreme sports. People tell me they love my stoke because I love doing fun things. I love skiing, kite surfing, surfing, etc. I love doing these things. Jet skiing. I love riding a jet ski and just popping a big wave. I go out in San Diego. It's illegal actually, but I go out on the waves, whoosh, fly up 10 feet in the air. It's great. But all these things I would have missed out on had I been working a job. And I would have settled for not a bad existence, a comfortable existence, honestly, but one where I didn't truly give my gift to the world. And hopefully I'm giving my stoke, stoking you, it's a California term, but where I didn't truly give my gift to the world. I didn't truly live out my dream because I'd been working in fear. My advice to you, if you're scared about quitting your job, is that it's natural, it's normal, and it's not your fault. It's the way we are conditioned to be. Throughout our whole government, our education, the media has taught us to work a job and have somebody else pay for our value. But the reality is that you are never going to be able to shine your light on the world. You're never going to be paid what you're actually worth if you're working a job. If you spend those years between 25 to 65, 8 hours a day, most of your life is spent working a job. And the statistics are 84% of people hate working where they work. So if chances are, if you're watching this, you hate your job. In China and Japan and in Asia, it's actually even higher. Over 90% of people hate their job. So why do you spend the majority of your life doing something you hate? Makes no sense. So my advice to you is, if you're scared, don't worry. It's natural. It's not your fault. But at a certain point, you need to just do it. Now, if you're looking for some information on how to quit your job, I've got another video I'll put up here which goes over how to quit your job gracefully. Goes over a few tips about that. But if this video helped you out at all, and hopefully my story did, let me know. Let me know in the comments if this had any effect on your decisions or anything that you're going through right now. In the comments, it'll be really meaningful for me to understand your context. Make sure you like this video and subscribe to my channel if you want to learn more about, not just quitting your job, but how to work for yourself and remote work opportunities. My business is affiliate marketing. And if you want to learn more about how I do that and use the internet to make a lot of money, there is a link to my free training in the description. It's great speaking to you, and I hope I added some value to your day.